Friendly reminder, please log in regularly to refresh your spot, and active tunes will be removed after 7 days. Now, I'm not actually doing that. You guys can see. I have people offline for almost 2 months. I mean, the reason is that the game is really slow right now. Like, really, really, really slow. Depending on where you are and what you do, you may or may not have noticed that. But if we look at this, I've been playing this game long enough to know that the size of this slider changes the more people that are online. When there's a lot of people online, I mean like 300 plus people on the server, this slider looks like a sliver. When you get down under around 200, 1 to 200 people, it starts to look like this. When there's under 100, it'll be like a larger slider. So right now, given this, I would say there's probably like, my estimate guess is like 150 people online on Cormyr right now. So it's been super slow. You can see I'm probably overestimating. There's probably less than 150. There's only 3 LFMs, and if we look at this based on population, you can see like the max population number is 300, and the highest, this purple line, is Orion. Orion peaks at around 320, 330 people, given on the time of day. Wayfinder is always the smallest. It's down here. Cormyr is not in this list. They still have the old hardcore. The person who runs this site is like a private individual. They're not affiliated with SSG in any way. So it actually costs them money to run this service. And the reason they haven't added Cormyr yet is because it will cost them more money. I haven't spoken to them, but I have a feeling it's because the new server for Cormyr is in Las Vegas. It's at a different data center, so they probably have to sign up for some feed from that data center. If in the future all of our servers are moved to Las Vegas and the old data center shut down, maybe it'll be easier for this person to snag all the servers. But from what I read from this person who runs this site, they just aren't financially in this situation to do that. If it changes, then they would add. I think they should remove this hardcore, though, because I don't think we're going to get a normal old school hardcore anymore. But you can see, like, population for the servers, 260. And again, this is Orion. It spikes a little bit over that. But if you guys play any other game, right, like, you know that 260 people on a server in a game across 8 servers, I mean, we're talking like 1,500 people. And if we were to look at like an audit of like the Path of Exile 2 server right now, it's probably 500,000 people. So you're talking about 1,500 people versus 500,000 people, which is why I'm not, to get back to how I started talking about this, why I'm really not removing players who are not logging into the guild, just because there's no need to. We have 800 spots right now. We have 631 people in the guild, and that doesn't track, that's unique accounts. It doesn't track alts. So we technically could be full, but it just might, some doofus might have like 20 alts in the guild or something like that, and that might be multiple people. I'm not online all the time. People guild bank tunes and buff bots and all sorts of shit, especially now where in like a week, less than a week, we're going to have the addition of free-to-play accounts to the server for 3 months or whatever it is. I think it's January 22nd, then all of a sudden the server will be open to everybody. It's good news for us who are on Cormyr already, because they're accelerating the lantern acquisition. So for those of us who've been slogging through, like me, I have been slogging through this order lantern Like I'm at 500 points, but I've had this lantern since like way back when I uploaded I just got my cat video. I switched from that to this lantern. That's how slow it is. It's been over a month, like, of me trying to fill this. It's just the order lanterns are busted. You only get 6 points, and then if you have a master's gift or some sort of Delaria trinket, you get an extra point. And then if you're running a potion, which I'm running a 20% potion, you get another point. So you basically get 8 points and any kill. It doesn't matter if it's ahead of the beast or just a Naga or whatever. So it makes it super, super slow. I think the average count for monsters that you have to kill, it's like 250 mists, which that is an awful lot of mists. That's like running into the mist 250 times. And while I have run it a lot, I haven't run it 250 times. That's just dumb. It's from my perspective, it's just so dumb. Okay, I have to send out some guild invites. So, I mean, when I look at this game, I look at a game that plays just as well as PoE 2. We have just as much build complexity, and there are things that we do a little bit better than they do, and there are things, obviously, that they do a little bit better than we do. But one of the things they're really good at is player retention. If you were to look at the first Path of Exile, it's extremely popular still, right? Like crazy still. So I don't think that the mechanic that they have for the lanterns encourages people to play, which is why I'm not surprised that there's nobody logged into the server. So I think it encourages people to get frustrated, and so then they log off. Very similar to how the ads on Twitch cause people to channel jump, right? So I'm on Cormyr. We're getting an update on the I think it's 22nd, right? And they're going to allow anybody to play on the server, not just VIPs. So we'll probably be flooded with buff bots and all sorts of stuff. We really don't have to worry about like gold farmers. Back in the day, we used to have to worry about that, but the population for this game is so small right now. It's around, I think it's around 1,500 people are playing right now. And that fluctuates. And just to put it in reference for you guys, the height of COVID, right? The average was around 3,000, 3,500, somewhere around there. We spiked up to like 5 a few times, but it hovered mostly around like 3K. And then now, 2 years after COVID, whatever, we're about half, which is basically, it's a little less than like it's around like 2018. It's a little less. So what does that say, right? We can extrapolate from this because we're thinking creatures, right? Well, that says to me that we're not adding any new players. In other words, what I mean is anybody coming in, rather than growing the population, there's also people leaving. And so when I talk about stuff, like a lot of people, I get a lot of comments on my YouTube channel for like the gifts I've been making. I've been putting in the tag things that should change when I post on the official GDO Discord. I go into the suggestions and I post ideas that I think that they should change. And sometimes I get a lot of kickback about them, but my justification for the take that I have is that we are not growing the population. Our population is shrinking, or static at best, shrinking at worst, right? So if we're sitting at 1,500 players for 5 years, we had the COVID burst, which hit every video game in the market. Like if we were to go to Twitch and look at Twitch numbers for 2018 and then 2020, you would notice it's a quadrupled. Twitch just exploded with popularity. As a matter of fact, a lot of video game companies and tech companies in general expanded because they thought, wow, the internet is exploding. Well, it turned out to be a bubble based on the pandemic, right? Which everybody kind of knew. And so when the bubble popped and everybody left and the lockdowns were over and people could go back outside and everybody stopped logging in and playing games and being online, it went back to what it was prior to the pandemic. And so for us to not have grown at all, like, I mean, it's so I post ideas that I think would encourage people to stay, because the games that I'm looking at as sort of references are things like Path of Exile. Path of Exile 1 has been out since 2012. They have consistently maintained a steady population, and then when they do their seasons, they get a lot of people who go and play. And, you know, it's so if you were to look at it, it's like a wave, it goes up and down, but they go way up. I think for the Path of Exile, the last one that they did, without looking at the number, I think they hit like 100 or 200,000, which for a game that came out in 2012, that's really good. I know Path of Exile 2 broke a bunch of records on Steam. It broke a bunch of records on Twitch. It still has, I think, around like 300,000 people playing it. So they did lose some because they were at like 500,000, but the point is they're really good at keeping people there. And an example of what I'm talking about is like one of the things that I recently said was I think bound to character needs to go away. I think bound to account needs to go away. Bound to character first. It is the number one reason why I don't like to raid in DDO. People often ask me like, hey, I watch other streamers and they're raiding and I never see you raiding. Yeah, well, it's because I don't like raiding in DDO. I've raided in a lot of games. I ran a giant raiding guild. We used to do like the hardest, what would be in this game, like Reaper mode. In other MMOs, I tanked, I progressed, but I'm not a fan of it in DDO. And the biggest reason, there's a bunch of reasons, but the biggest reason is bound to character raid gear. I can't stand it. I hate the idea that I have to raid on a tune that I don't want to play in order to get a piece of gear for that tune. Like, in other words, I have my main, Mary, who has all of my past lives, my Reaper point. I want to raid on her only. And then anything that I get, like, let's say I do the Dryad raid and I pull something that would work on my Bard, I just want to give it to my Bard. I don't want to have to buy some bullshit Wish of Inheritance for $40 or whatever it costs. I don't think it actually costs $40, but I think it's like 2,200 DDO points. It would come out to something like $15 or something like that. The point is like $15 because I ran a raid and I won a piece of gear and now I have to pay to, it's just over. Like, I don't mind monetization. I understand they have to keep their lights on, but from my perspective, it's predatory, it's bullshit, it's not fun, it's anti-player, so I just want them to get rid of that whole system. And then if they want my money, let me run a raid, give the gear to whoever I want, and then hit me up with the season pass that has a bunch of cosmetics and a bunch of amenities in it, right? Hit me up with the season pass that costs $400. I don't care. The point is, give me value that I am happy to pay for because it's going to make my game better. You give me a cosmetic set that looks like a Jedi, a Sith, a fucking sand person, whatever. You know, I'm just saying random Star Wars things at this point. Or go the other way. Give me something that looks like Snape, Dumbledore, Voldemort. Obviously, they're not going to use these names, but I mean Bellatrix Lestrange. Give me outfits that look similar to those in DDO that I can put on my characters, bundle it into a season pass that has like another version of this. See, people love these, right? These books here. They could just come up with random ones. Give us a bunch of other, you know, like they could do premium archetypes. I'm just spitballing ideas, but the point is that kind of stuff would be something that they could bundle together and get me to purchase mounts, pets, all the stuff. Any of you guys out there playing Marvel Rivals, if anybody hasn't or thought about trying it, I've been playing it. It's super fun. The game is 100% free. You don't have to pay a dime to play it. You download it, you play it. You can buy the season pass. You can buy skins, outfits, pets, cosmetics, conveniences. And the game is doing phenomenal. It's one of the most played games on Twitch. It's one of the most popular games as we can talk about right now. People are cosplaying it all. If you go to Twitter, you'll find Marvel Rivals everywhere. Everybody's talking about Jeff the Shark. Like, it's just a cultural thing now. It's popping off. And they're doing it without nickel and diming. So, I mean, that's what I am talking about when I'm making my suggestions. I'm not always going to suggest like something that people agree with, but the point is, I'm hoping that the conversation shifts and changes to trying to actually retain players, because right now we're not. And that's not just me saying that to talk down or to meme on the game. That's me looking at the numbers objectively as someone who streams and makes YouTube content and wants to obviously, like, look, I love the game. I love you guys. I love the community. I do what I can. I spend an awful lot of time doing like Death Smile, hardcore stuff, making videos for my YouTube channel and stuff. Most of that's not monetized at all, simply because the size of our community is so small. If this was WoW and we added like 2 or 3 zeros at the end of the numbers, so like my YouTube channel right now has like, I think it's, let's say it's 900 followers. If that were 900,000 followers, I'd be making enough money to live on with the as many views as I get on the videos on my YouTube channel. And that would allow me to make even more content, right? But because our population is so small, that's not the case. I don't make any money on YouTube. Money over here, everything that I do over here, and this is not, I don't necessarily do any of this to make any money. I'm just speaking, right? Like, it would be easier to make more content, right? If it was self-sustaining, that's the point. So the fact that it's really difficult to get enthusiastic about spending hours and hours and hours and hours a week, you know, like a lot of hours a week making content for a game that's shrinking, because you know that it's not ever going to pop off in a way that would monetize itself and keep it as a self-sustaining. So I think that's one of the reasons people have lamented last year. A bunch of popular streamers stopped streaming GDO or took a break or left, or I bet they'll be back, but I don't know if they'll be back as much as they were during the pandemic, because the point is, during the pandemic, the population exploded and they did get monetized and they were able to get like that self-sustaining thing going. And while, like I've said it a few times, I don't do any of this for money. I would do it even if I never got any money. There's never enough money, right? It helps. So it really does help if it's self-sustaining. So the point is, like, I would love to have a suggestion that I put out there help the community grow, so we could actually see the population of this game grow. Because, you know, right now it's like I play a lot of other games and some of them are doing really, really well. And they're doing things that are very different than what they're doing over here. Now, it may just be that if people have a hard time changing their behavior because they don't want to, a lot of it has to do with fear, right? Like not anybody specific, whoever, sit down and look at their financials for the year and they're like, okay, we've done this, it made us this, and now we're just going to continue because we want to continue making the same amount of money. Taking any wildly crazy actions might like make people really afraid, right? So I doubt anything super large would be changed immediately, but I definitely think something needs to be done, because they've released, if we look at DDO very specifically, they've released a lot of really good content. Feywild, Saltmarsh, Isle of Dread, the Vecna quests are super fun. Myth Draenor is a very iconic area of the Forgotten Realms. Like, if that's not going to drag new players from pen and paper into this ecosystem, I don't know what's going to. It's not, so clearly it's not the content. We do get a lot of people who come back to try it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, let's say the population sits steady between 1,200 and 1,700. There's a flux of about 500 people coming and going at any given time. As somebody who's run a guild, 1,000-person guild, that's the normal flux of players coming and going, right? So what we want is growth, and that means that we have to do things that augment the normal coming and going. Because even if the ecosystem is super healthy, people are going to leave just because life happens, right? Like they're gonna, yeah, they might move, they might get a new job, they might have a baby, they might, you know, so they, even though they want to log in and play, they might just not be able to. And then we want to get the people who are, there's a lot of people who love Dungeons and Dragons, especially since Baldur's Gate 3, who are like, I want more of the Baldur's Gate 3 experience. What am I going to play? Well, what do they normally go and play? Hey, look at that. I spent 12 shards to uproll my silver roll to a gold roll, and I rolled a 98. It looks like they're doing double points, right? Because and I might be wrong. This will turn into shards, and I got a hair dye. That's really good. I like the hair dyes. I mean, this is another suggestion that I had. Like, I think the gold rolls should be way better. Like, even though I got a 98, and I'll take all this stuff. I think that the tome, like any tomes that you get, should be generic and let you click and pick which one you want. I don't think it should just be like it gives you spot. I think it should be a tome of skill +4. You click it and you pick the one that you want. I think that would make it useful, because right now, even though like a circumstance may arise that +4 spot might be useful for me, really, me personally, I'm just going to crunch that into those dragon shards that you use for crafting. So I won't even consider using this tome. But +4 is a really good number. +4 is high enough that it would actually make a difference. So like if I wanted to make a rogue, and I could take a skill tome of like disable device, that's exactly what I would do. Or search would be another good example. I don't often uproll them, but I figure because we're streaming, I might as well. And I've been buying and selling stuff on the GTN. It's something that I talk about, but I don't really show it on stream. I was able to make like 2,400 shards over here on Cormyr by buying and selling stuff on the auction house. So like I'm pretty good at that. I'm usually pretty good at that in every MMO that I play. Like in Star Wars: The Old Republic, I took over the auction house in there. I won't bore you guys talking about that, but I could do like a long video series if I wanted to on how I did it and what I did. You know, it's pretty good. If only I could do that in real life, right? If only I could do that in real life. The problem is, in real life, you need capital to start, right? In a video game, you can just go out and do a bunch of quests and get a bunch of plat or gold or whatever you're gonna do, and then that allows you, like, I think in DDO, if you get your favor rewards every now and again, you'll get 1 or 2 astral shards for turning in like your monster manual, and that's enough to start buying and selling on the auction house with astral shards if you didn't have the money to actually purchase astral shards. So you can do it that way. You just have to quest and unlock your monster manual, and then eventually you will qualify to get a couple, and then that would allow you to start posting there. If you post something that somebody sells, you can make a profit of astral shards that would allow you to post more, and then you can just build it from there. But reality, money is so fucking broken that you know, you need a lot to start doing that in reality. So not always, though. I'm not gonna claim to be an expert there, but if it were as easy as a video game, I would certainly be in a much better situation. I think what I'm going to do is work on getting another master's gift. So, like, That's basically what I'll do. I wanted to take a look at some news and see what's going on before we do that, react to it. So take a look and see. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. We won't do like a super long deep dive, but yeah, let me close that. So you guys may have heard that there is some controversy going on in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They just released this year a whole bunch of new rule books, and the news on the street is that people are not happy with a lot of the changes that they made in these rule books. Now, we won't go in. There's a couple of different stories. There's a couple of different things that people were talking about, but I think that one of the things that would help us to sort of talk about these stories are kind of old now. This is from 2023, so this is like over a year old now. This one too is a year and a half old. There were problems that were arising from the messaging that was going on with the level up of the game brand itself. So, like, will there ever be a 6th edition of Dungeons and Dragons? And there's the word on the street a year and a half ago was that there is not going to be, that it's going to be only the 5th edition, and that they're just going to basically revise the books. So that's exactly what we got in 2024. We got a new Player's Handbook, a new Dungeon Master's Guide, and I think the new Monster Manual is like releasing now. I think it's going to be in the store in February. It may already be in the store, but the point is people were looking in these new books and were not exactly happy with what they were seeing. Another part of the controversy arose from this thing called OGL, which is the Open Game License. The Open Game License has to do with Wizards of the Coast basically not suing people for doing things that are very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. We know like Pathfinder is a great example of that. There's also, I think it's called open source. I'm not exactly sure what that's called, but there's like the D20. If you go to like d20.com, you can see all the like 3.5 rules that are there. Baldur's Gate utilized sort of like a homebrew version of the rule set. So there's been a lot of controversy. I'm going to try to get like the end of the day story, but it looks like for here, this is the most recent story. This came out this last summer, 2024, August. It looks like that they walked back and like canceled a lot of the changes that were going to upset a lot of players. And the reason is that a lot of players unsubscribed to this. They lost a lot of the community, and so they completely reversed the decisions they were making. A lot of players were saying like that they were going to lose access to books that they had purchased, and that they weren't happy about the new books. So I'm going to try to get up to date on the story here, but the gist of it from this article is that they're reversing the changes, and that you're not going to need to like homebrew rules. They're not going to lock anybody out of anything. Now, whether or not they reverse or change some of the controversial like things like getting rid of half elf, getting rid of half orc, I'm not exactly sure what the story is going to be there with those. So we'll see. I'm not exactly sure, but this is the site that I usually go to for news. I'm not affiliated with this site at all, but they usually do a pretty good job of curating all the news that comes in. And we just want to basically take a quick look here to see if there's any video game news. Yeah, this is the new monster manual that's coming out in 2025. I did see something about this, and I'm not exactly sure yet what the actual state is because I haven't read this, but it was just a rumor that I saw that they were making like succubi like non-binary. In other words, like they weren't going to be he or she. It was going to be basically like the dungeon master chooses it, you know, but in the book itself it was like a neutral, which I laughed out loud for like a good 20 minutes when I first read that, because a succubi is a female demon. So like, why would you even have it in the book? Why, like, if they're gonna mess with it, why not just remove it? Like, why alter it to something that is completely different, or just add a different monster and give it a new name? To use that name implies something that has existed a lot longer than. I did a video on Wildmen for my YouTube channel about this. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons invented the term Wildmen. Wildmen have been in fantasy fiction for the last 2,000 years. Tolkien wrote about them most recently. Like, there's other fantasy writers. They appear all over the, you know, even back in the ancient Greeks were writing about Wildmen. So it's not like D&D has some. I don't like the idea that they're going to try to virtue police reality and be the fantasy gatekeepers that modernize the fantasy genre, and they neuter some, how do we say it, iconographic creatures that exist like in our subconscious. So incubi are male demons, succubi, female demons. Like, this is way beyond D&D. Like, this is something that, you know, shouldn't even be messed with. They should just make a new monster, and if they think it's controversial at all, just leave it out. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't do that if I were in charge, but the point is, I don't think that they should start messing around with stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't be interested in buying a monster manual that had anything like that. So I'm not sure if part of the walkback that we saw for the open source stuff is going to involve this, because they also got rid of like half orcs, half elves. And I ranted about that in the video about Wildmen, because Tolkien wrote about half elves for a very specific reason, as a narrative bridge between the race of humans and the divine race of, you know, like elves, right? Without getting into like Tolkien mythology, the point is, it was a very specific. Elrond was half elven specifically, and in the D&D world, half elves are really fun to play because they also had that bridge between the two different, you know, worlds. Like, if you went to a human city, if you went to an elven city, if you're a half elf. And that's why they're so good at diplomacy. If you play one in DDO, they do get buffs to like their allure skills and things like that. So, you know, they also have, like, in DDO, they get some really good buff affinities for like other classes. They're just like jack of all trades. It's a really good race if you're doing your racial past lives in DDO. Half elves are really good, but I would not want DDO to get rid of half elves just because the new monster manual and the new player's handbook got rid of half elves. That would very much upset me if they decided to do that. So I'm hoping that the people who are running Wizards of the Coast, the new president used to work for Blizzard. It is a video game guy, and I'm hoping that he decides to back off on any weird changes to the lore, because it's not just like everybody's watching. Like, Elon Musk actually made a post. He's a controversial figure, right? I'm not saying anything whether you should like him or not like him. I'm only mentioning him as a point of reference. Like, even he's tweeting about Dungeons and Dragons. Like, so the point is, like, people are paying attention. I don't think that they should mess around with rules or anything major. I think what they should focus on is making more content. He's a video game guy. I think they need more D&D video games. We have Elden Ring. So that's one of the things. People play Baldur's Gate 3 and they're like, I want to play more of a D&D type game, and then they find Elden Ring or another type of game, Path of Exile. The fact that people aren't coming to DDO is troubling to me because they should. And I think it's the way that the content and the monetization clash. It's something that I have friends who used to play DDO and they will not play DDO anymore. If I ask them why, the gist of what they're saying to me is that I don't want to be nickel and dimed for every little thing that I want to do. A great example is my friend played Baldur's Gate 3. He had a build in Baldur's Gate 3 that he really liked. He wanted to play it in GDO. He needed a plus 20 heart in order to change into this. Plus 20 hearts are only for sale at certain times. He couldn't buy one. He completely lost interest. And that was it. Hasn't come back. So why is it that plus 20 hearts need to be on sale at all? Like, why can't we earn them in game? Why is this even a thing at all to respec? I think respec should be free. 100% free. People should not, he should have been able to change to whatever he wants to make to play. Isn't it better to have him logged in and playing on a character that he's happy with than trying to brick wall him with some sort of bullshit? Oh, you need to purchase a plus 20 for $50, and those are only on sale 4 times a year. It's just such nonsense, man. It's bullshit. It makes no sense. It's not player friendly. It's not game friendly. It's not going to keep people playing. How about this? My other friend came into the game. He had no idea how to play a warlock. He had no idea that the bars, the bars down the bottom of the screen, these action bars, he had no idea that these didn't automatically update. So he builds his warlock and he picks his feats and he starts playing his game, and he never pins anything to his bar because he doesn't know that he has to. He doesn't know that it doesn't auto update. And so he's not running with anything on his warlock. The point is, he got really frustrated that he wasn't having a good time playing the game. Well, not a surprise. If you're not pinning anything to your bars on a warlock, half your abilities aren't going to work, right? So, so he decided, the reason I mentioned it is because he decided that he was going to respec himself because he had taken some feats that he didn't like. And he couldn't just respec. He had to buy a lesser heart of wood and then do all that bullshit. The point is I'm trying to make, I don't know how well I'm making the point is, but I think that lesser hearts should not be a thing. I think it should just be something that anybody can do at any time. If you want to respec your character, you should be able to respec your character. He was bricked on that character because he had taken the wrong feats, and because he needed to purchase something with real money in order to redo his character in a correct way, he completely lost interest and stopped playing. It was a cascade of things. Like, he didn't understand why his character was so weak. He didn't understand what feats, when he realized that he had started to do things wrong and that in order to fix them, he had to pay real money, he just completely lost interest. I'm not saying they need to make it 100% free, and you can respec certain feats. You go to Fred with a dragon shard, but I think that system is old. I think it needs to be gotten rid of. I think the whole astral shard, I think you should just be able to respec for your character whenever you want for a few hundred plat. Like, it shouldn't be much at all. Like, it should be cheap enough that a new player can just do 100 builds and try the game out without needing to worry about being completely broke and bankrupt and needing to pay money. It's not an amenity to build your character. It's not an amenity. In other words, It shouldn't be a premium where you have to buy a lesser heart in order to respec your character. That should just be basic gameplay. So, like, this is what I'm saying. To retain players, to get the population of the game to grow, they need to change the fundamental concept of the way that they think about monetizing this game. They should not be punishing players who are just trying to build a character. To me, it makes no sense. I mean, maybe, I don't know what you guys think. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I have the hottest take. Maybe I'm just being a complete idiot, but I don't think so. I think I'm saying stuff that is absolutely true. I think I'm like 100% right. I don't see, and there's no other game that I play where you're penalized for making a build wrong and that you have to actually pay real money to fix it. That, to me, I wouldn't play a game like that. If I came to DDO and discovered that and I had never played the game before, I'd leave, man. Like, why would I do it?
Where are you going? Hunting for gold that is flowing. Somewhere in the cold world, hid there is no knowing. Hey love, oh la 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 la. We love games. There's a standing stone, let's make camp. We love games, let's make camp and play more games. Hey la, oh la la la. We love games. We love games. Where are you going? There's no knowing what magic awaits, what evil is growing. Hey la, oh la la la. We love games. Love games. Hunting or crypts is folly. Just play games and be jolly. Magical treasures hide in the dark. So rest then embark. We love